Everybody, Dirkie here with another video. Now this is going to be the first video for my Pixel Perfect series where I will teach you guys how to make pixel art. In this very first video we're not actually going to draw anything, I'm just going to explain a bunch of things, and then in future videos I will take you from A to Z in regards to making pixel art. If you want to do pixel art in general, this is a good video series for you because I'm going to keep it very basic. And we are going to apply the project Zomboid sauce, to fit that aesthetic in these videos, but that doesn't take away that all the tricks and techniques that I teach you guys will still be applicable for other projects that you may do in the future unrelated to Project Zomboid. Now to get started, I'm gonna show you this image that I took from Google and explain the difference between perspective viewpoint, perspective viewpoint and isometric viewpoint. Now, perspective viewpoint is the thing you should be seeing in your daily life, where things that are closer to you appear a lot bigger than the things that are further away from you. I don't know of a condition that doesn't allow you to see things this way, so if I'm wrong here, just put it in the comments, but I think you should be seeing things like this, where a lot of video games with pixel art use an isometric viewpoint or some other fixed viewpoint where there is no perspective difference between objects that are further away or closer to you. Now what does that mean? That means that the little thing there, the little character, is as big as the character down here. There's no difference the further away they get. And this makes pixel art a lot easier to draw if you don't have to keep all the perspective stuff in mind. So this definitely works in our favor for Project Zomboid. And this also means that the following thing is true, where we have a everyday perspective projection where where lines have a vanishing point where they would meet up. That one line is not the most perfect one, but there we go. So they have a vanishing point, and usually you can't see the object further than that point, and the same would apply in the other direction. So let's do that as well. Quickly draw a couple lines for you guys. So they should meet up around there, and that's basically all you get to see. Now if you want to learn more about vanishing points, I suggest you Google it. If you add the word building, you get a lot of nice images with buildings that have vanishing points, where basically they all just disappear into the distance. This is a very clear, good image that explains the basics. All the lines vanish at a certain point. Does that matter for our pixel art? Not necessarily so, but it's nice to know the difference between perspective and isometric. So the thing we're gonna do, where isometric projections have a set distance between each line, and that's not set in stone, but it is set for the lines that you've drawn. So the distance here is going to be the same distance between the lines as the distance that they have when they're further away, and this applies to all the angles that you can see, and this makes it very easy to draw nice stuff for pixel art because you don't have to keep perspective in mind. Now the angle, which you may want to know, probably not, but the angle between this usually is 30 degrees. For Project Zomboid, when we actually rearrange a square or a flat image to fit this perspective, we usually go with 26.7 just because it looks better, but we will get to that in a future video where I'll teach you how to do that. For now, what does that mean for our art? I'm gonna create a little file here, which is a little blank square. Let's make it neutral gray. Create a new layer, and I'm just gonna draw a little thing for you. This is not something you have to follow at this point. I'm just gonna try and explain the basics to you, and we'll actually do a draw along in future videos. So if you want to draw a little cube from a fixed flat frontal projection, you'd have this, which is very straight, very obvious, because you can all probably draw this one. Now if you want to do one at a slight angle, you add a different line to the sides, and you do the same thing. I'm just gonna copy it over because I'm lazy. Do the same thing on the other sides, and then you can connect these dots, and you'd have a bit of a 3D cube. But that doesn't look alright, because now you have a frontal projection that's square, and then a side projection that is still square. And if we go back to the previous image, you can see that this image that also has a line that's going slightly up. That's because if this front section here would be completely square and rectangular like this, then you should never be able to see the pieces behind it. So this works, but this is actually wrong. And now how do we fix that for the viewpoint that we have? To make straight lines, you do a 2 by 1 up step. I call it a step. It's not the most technical term, but when I say 2 by 1 step, this is the one I refer to. And if you do that in the other direction as well, you can see that we get a nice little corner. And I'm going to copy these over and just make a little cube out of it real quick. And again, we will do a future video where I will go over how to make these things, so don't worry about that for now. Where's my cursor? There we go. And that's how we draw a little cube that works with an isometric perspective. Now what's the key to drawing this cube? It is 100% the 2 by 1 step. Does that mean you can't do different things? No, not at all. If you want to have a different angle to your cube and have it look all weird and jagged, you can totally do a 3 by 1 to give it a bit of an odd angle. But then of course you need to correct this side as well, because it's not going to fit otherwise. So then we're going to do probably something weird. It's going to look very funky. Do something like that. But as you can see, it still reads like a straight line. The key to doing pixel art is to keep your line steps or your line differences. Let's do a little bit brighter background so I can see my cursor. Consistent. So if you want to do a straight line, all you need to do is keep the same offset every single time you draw the object. So if you do 3, 3, 3, or 2, 2, 2, that's going to work. But if you do 2, then 1, then 3, then 2, then 2, then 3, or 4, that's going to look all jagged, just if you were to draw a line by hand on a weird angle. So the key to doing pixel art, or doing isometric pixel art, is to keep the line jumps consistent. I think this is a good explanation for the very first video. Then in future videos we will go over the tools that you can use, because I'm using Photoshop, but you probably don't have Photoshop if you've never done art before. And then in that video we will also start drawing. I hope you like these videos. You can always like and subscribe, and Patreon should be popping up about now if you want to support me there. And I hope to see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have a very, very nice day.